Hello and welcome to this week's episode of ThinkTank Thursday. I'm Genevieve Sullivan and I am thrilled to be with you here this week. Thank you for coming. Before we begin our interview today, I want to thank our Think Tank sponsors. We appreciate all of our sponsors. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to bring you a new episode every week. Trainertainment likes to take a break from doing and spend some time thinking on Thursdays. Today, our guest is James Wilson. James is the GM and operating partner of Skateland Indy here in Indianapolis, Indiana. On top of revitalizing the roller rink here in Indy and co-writing The Evolution of Skating Volume 3, James is owner of East Coast Roller Sports, where you can get all of your skating gear, including the Jam skate line, which he designs. So let's jump in and see how we can grow today. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about how you got to where you are today here at Skateland Indy?
Sure. So try to find a short version that goes back over 30 years. So skating, I was born into skating. It's my family's business. I'm a third generation. So obviously learned how to skate before I learned how to walk. So growing up, I started out as a competitive figure skater, national champion skater. And then when I got older, I would say probably when I got to maybe in my 20s, I started to decide that, you know what, I want to start taking the stuff that I've done on the floor with my skating, and I want to start transitioning off the floor to the business side of it. I was also a professional skater, traveled and performed. And then I started Jam Skate Entertainment, and I started creating of my partnership with Anabolics, started building my Jam Skate company into a skate brand. So that was one of my first big off-floor business ventures, was creating and designing my own skates. And then that transitioned into me sponsoring skaters. As I said, I started to transition myself off the floor, and I started putting the next generation on my skates on the floor, and went from there. And then my next step for me, which I think made sense, was, okay, now I'm at a place in my life where I feel ready to, I guess, with what would be maybe being expected of me being in this business, to have a rink. It was finally time for me to start that journey of, okay, how do I acquire a rink? What do I need to do? And there was a lot of ups and downs with it, a lot of challenges. And then I would say over the past 2 to 3 years, it started to gain some more traction, some opportunities, and some business dealings. And that's ultimately what led me here to Indianapolis to have this rink.
That's great. And we're lucky to have you here in Indy, certainly. I am here in Indianapolis and actually have gone to Skateland previously. I know that you took over in April. What kind of growth have you already seen in the industry or at Skateland since you took over in April?
So we've seen a growth since I've been here. We have seen a growth with our school parties. We've seen a growth with our STEM programs. Those kind of tie into the school parties, but those are also kind of their own separate thing. We've seen a big growth in our, I guess you want to say, our group private parties, and we do that with different fundraisers, different organizations, whether it be churches, homeschooling, different religious groups. We've seen a lot, I guess we call them contract sales. We've seen a lot of good growth in our contract sales. We've also seen a good growth in our sessions as well, with just the look we've given the rink and some of the changes we've made, and a lot of the image that we have really pushed over the past few months to really show the new look of this rink. That has also brought in some new faces, and it's also brought just a lot of new customer base. It's brought in a lot of returning people that maybe weren't here from before, or that maybe thought it was challenging to be here before. We've opened our doors back to a lot of new things, and that's some of the growth that we've seen. And especially we've seen more growth in our adult market.
So when you're thinking about sort of what are more specifically some of the changes? Like if I were taking over a rink similar to Skateland and wanted to if you were giving me advice on, some things I should look at, what are some things that you specifically looked at to get yourself back out in the community and getting the
There,
community you to come back to
Sure.
Skateland?
Great question. So there was a couple of things, and they kind of one served the other. So one of it was, okay, the first thing we have to do is we have to establish the tone. We have to establish that this is a new look place. We have to establish the new leadership. We have to establish that there is a way that we're going to go about doing business. So you have to kind of plant your line in the sand on that. You have, and then also that takes into is your crowds you have to get reintroduced to your audience. So we spend a lot of time with that, with people coming in the doors and trying to welcome them. And a lot of that was the presentation of the building. The building needed to have a good presentation externally and internally. And as you've seen some of the cosmetic changes we made, that was so much of my presentation. It was, we need, if people are going to take the quote new look seriously, you have to give them a new look. You have to be able to, you have to kind of treat it like a grand reopening, I guess, in a sense. You're introducing it. I mean, the rink's been here, but you're introducing it as something new again. So that's something I would say to people that are getting ready, they want to take a rink or do, is you have to establish that relationship with your customers. You have to find the way to reach out and really present the rink in a good light to attract new customers. And we did a lot of that too with, again, contacting different groups, organizations. We actually just a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you've seen this, I have a link to it. We had the news here. We had the news here doing a segment talking about, just some of the new changes, the new look. So those are the things that I would recommend you do is finding your ground in the community, reaching out to your communities, reaching out to news coverage, social media. There are so many aspects, and that's what we tackled. It was just a culmination of everything, but basically in short to say, here's the new look, here's what we're doing, showing the people the changes, and then also re-energizing your staff, bringing in new staff to follow that direction, follow that vision you have. It's a process. There's so much to go into it, and you just have to kind of prioritize everything and pick your battles. But that's what I would tell somebody if you're coming into an area like this or a new rink in general, is understand your community, reach out to your community, make everyone feel welcome, but also and look at the appearance of the building. Make sure you're setting it up to be a premier attraction. It looks like an attraction. It looks like a place that people want to come into and they feel good being in here. Because if you don't, you can do all the other things, but if you walk into a place and there's duct tape on the carpet, there's paint chips everywhere, a lot of that sometimes says just as much as what you're presenting directly with yourself, your staff. Like, people look at that too. And presentation, I would just say overall for anybody, focus on your combined presentation.
Absolutely. And I will say, again, being a local here in Indianapolis, I noticed that it was painted on the outside, right? Like, just driving by, you can notice, especially in the
Yes.
establishment that had been there, has been there for so long that I noticed, right, that
And
there
to
was
that point,
something going on.
so when I first got here, to that point, what you just touched on, when you make that turn, the first you see that building on the side. And for me, it was very important that that gets repainted, gets redone, because when they make that turn and they come to our building, that's the first thing they see. And to me, in my mind, that sets the tone for me. And they turn and they see like chip paint and they see all this, they see all that. To me, in my mind, that can make or break how they're going to feel when they walk in. So we have to set that tone right away when they make that turn.
Yeah. You also mentioned you've been mentioning the groups that you've been bringing in, and I'm sure some of those have been consistent, but how far back do you feel like you went into sort of the files to try to bring groups back that maybe hadn't been coming for a few years?
So that's a great question. So what we do is we go like a year or two back, and we look at the previous couple years. Maybe say a year to 3 years. We kind of look at those previous years and we see, okay, for example, take June. We kind of look and say, okay, what groups were here in 2023, 2022? We don't have them booked here now. Let's look, let's see what they booked, see what they did. And then we reach out to them. We reach back out to them and say, basically we'll say, hey, notice you haven't booked with us. We'd love to chat with you. We have a new look facility, new leadership. We're doing some exciting things here. We'd love to have you come back. What can we do to get you back into our building, to give your kids, to give your guests, to give anyone with your respective business a great and memorable time? So that's what we track back. We go back and we look at archived groups, look at archived events, and then we'll touch base back with them again. And we stay pretty consistent with it. We'll go through We actually just yesterday, we were talking about October, Halloween. First thing I said was, well, what did we do last year? Let's look at last year. Who was here? So that's what we do when we plan and do. And that was a big part of our outreach to the community. That's where we started. Going back, looking at the previous years, contacting those groups, seeing about getting them back in. And then what we do too is the groups that currently come in here, when we have them come in here, we really try to showcase the building and we say, hey, love to have you keep doing business here. What do you like? What don't you like? We really try to make it an all encompassing experience for everyone.
That's wonderful. What kind of feedback have you gotten since you've made some of the changes, like the physical changes, as well as just reaching back out into the community? What feedback?
So it ranges so much. Obviously, you're not going to make everybody happy, but over the past couple months, we have gotten a lot of 4-star and 5-star reviews. And the general thing is, and I'm kind of generalizing it, a lot of it is everyone loves the new look. We get a lot of compliments. Hey, the floor feels good. The carpet looks great. Snack bar looks good. We get a lot of those general comments. And again, you're not gonna, it's hit or miss with everybody. Some will say, well, we didn't like the music. Maybe the food was this and that, but then we get some people say music was great. Love the food. So the general feedback that we get is the environment is happy. It feels good. The building looks great. They love the changes on the inside. They love the clean, fun, our motto, clean, fun, friendly, safe. We really get a lot of that in our reviews, and we've seen a trend because I can go back and see all the different. And from April, when I took the rink over in April, from April to May, I was still seeing some 1 and 2-star reviews. Well, now over the past couple months that we've really started kicking things more into gear, if you would say, we have really seen a lot more 4 and 5-star reviews. I have not seen a 1 or 2-star review probably since May.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. So when you think of, you talked about having good staff too, how do you go about hiring your staff in now to help really emphasize this growth and this change and shift that you have going on at Skateland Indy?
So what we do now when we hire staff, we bring them in, and I am very clear and concise right out the gate. I let them know that we are here as an entertainment business. I want happy, positive, smiling faces, and they have to have that ability to engage people. Don't be afraid to upsell things. Really show them the product that we have. And I always tell them, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Ask 3 times. Really push that. But I want people in here that are engaging. They're not nervous to talk. And I know sometimes it's hard to interact with people, but they have that they have like a love for skating. A lot of the people that we hire, that we look at, they'll say at some point in time, hey, I love roller skating. I come in here and skate. I come in here with my parents, or I bring my kids. So we look for those people too that have a love for roller skating as well. And what we do in our orientations is we also have them act out an animal. They have to act out a character. That's part of and that's how I gauge and I know that's kind of putting them on the spot, but that's a lot of what we do in this business. And we're an entertainment business. So we have them act out an animal of their choosing. And that's kind of also how I gauge their charisma and how they are. So that's what we establish right away. We don't just hire just anyone. We make it very well known out the gate. You're going to be here. We want energy, positivity. You're engaging customers. You're happy. You are showing the customers that this is an exciting place to be.
Great. I'd like to hear a little bit more too about, you have these other businesses, right?
Sure.
With your skating equipment, your skating line, even moving distribution and your headquarters, putting in a pro shop into Skateland Indy. Why don't you talk a little bit about the importance of the sport of skating when it comes to connecting it with the joy of, a family or a group or an event coming just to the roller skating rink for entertainment?
Sure. So we actually, when we did the news segment, that was actually a question we touched on that, and I love that question, because here's the one thing I'll say about roller skating: our world is always changing, and we see so many things around us. But I am still a firm believer that roller skating is still one of the purest forms of family entertainment. It's also still one of the cheapest forms of family entertainment when you look at in comparison to what prices are at a lot of other different attractions. And it's still one of those, roller skating is still that, at least I feel, it's still that old school, wholesome, mom and dad can come in here with their kids. and they can sit down in a snack bar together. They can go play games together. They can go out on the floor and skate together. It's still something for me that encompasses that family environment. And I that's why I firmly believe roller skating, why it's so important in communities. Because again, if you look at all the other different forms of entertainment, what normally happens? Moms and dads go sit somewhere, the kids are off by themselves doing. You look into a roller rink, you will see a family of four on the floor, skating together, laughing, having a good time. They're sitting down, enjoying a pizza together. How many times we pass out pizzas and take them to the tables? The families are all sitting together. You don't see that at a lot of entertainment places anymore. And I think what roller skating provides is still that old style, wholesome family entertainment.
That's great. How do you see your increasing in just kind of education around the sport of skating with your the additional businesses that you're bringing into Skateland Indy?
Increasing. Well, so I look at it. Well, what would you mean by increasing education with my brands?
Um,
Can you give more
so just meaning, I guess what I see from our conversations before is like your love of professional skating, right? Trying to mentor. You talked about
Sure.
sponsoring professional skaters. And so I see that as a new entry point, honestly, in growth with Skateland Indy in particular, right? That there's the entertainment side of it, and then there's also like, spotting kids or staff members who are really talented and kind of like mentoring them into um the sport of skating versus the versus like the casual
Sure. So what
entertainment
we
side of it.
so what we try to do is, and I will tell my staff this, and I tell people this, is that the opportunity is there if you seek it. And we do. We will find we will find those ones, or we'll get those ones that will say, "Hey, I like skating,
Mhm.
but I know there's more to it. I know that there's a different world off the floor. There's a whole other world that makes this thing go behind it." So what we try to do, obviously, with this, like for example, with the rink, what I try to look at is when I do promotions, or I look at leadership people, or I look at managers, I don't necessarily look from the outside. I try to build things from within, because I think that that's how you grow opportunity the best. It also builds morale for your team. When they see people internally, they see their peers moving up and building, it allows them to say, "Hey, I can do that too." And I think sometimes is when we hire externally, when it comes to that, it doesn't really show opportunity to me.
Mhm.
That's my opinion. It doesn't show opportunity. And I think I've learned that the best teams work together, the best morales work together, the best motivated people work together when they see that they can grow. And us as leaders, I think we sometimes tend to sometimes do what looks good on paper,
Mhm.
instead of taking a person saying, "You have the heart for this. We can make the paper look good. Let's get you there. Let's build. Let's grow. Let's do." And I apply the same thing with the skating brands. A lot of, we sponsor a lot of times. What I go for is, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but what I look for is, I don't look for the main name skaters.
Mhm.
I look for the kids that are wanting to come up. They're hungry. They want to build. They want to grow. They might have a little bit of a name, but they are not a mainstream skater. And I like to go for that, because I believe, again, it's so easy to pick. It's so easy to go for what we see. But I think as companies, and I think as brands, what our focus is, and as leaders should be, is to find the ones that are really working hard, build them, let them become a name, give them opportunity, because I think that that speaks volumes for a company, that, and it allows people to see that, hey, these brands really do care about the growth of of kids. They care about the growth of future skaters. Whereas if you just, for example, if you just pick a talent, or you just pick someone who's already established, it's kind of like, well, they're just there for the money. They obviously are just attaching something to draw something. Whereas I try to look at it and say, okay, I want to bring you in. I've seen you work hard, but let's take these steps and build you. And then even within that, I take my sponsored skaters. Currently kind of doing this right now, since we've acquired the new brands and doing stuff, is saying,
Mhm.
okay, now you've done this on your skates. Do you want to learn more? Now, do you want to take that like I did? Do you want to take what you did off your on your skates, and you want to apply it and keep building and keep growing? So that's what I try to take. What I do here at the rink, and then with my brands, is I try to take it and spin back the opportunity to give them, if I have the means to be able to do it, to provide that education for them, to give these kids and young adults the opportunity to grow and maybe go about the path that I did. And I think that's really important as leaders. To me at least, I think that that's something that all leaders should really focus on, regardless of what field you're in, is take your staff, take your people that you have, give them the opportunity. Sometimes to me, the drive and heart that I see in someone matters more than what qualifications they put on paper.
You can teach skills. You can't always teach the heart that they need.
Yep.
Absolutely. To get the job done.
Absolutely.
So with Skateland, with all of your brands, this again, like Think Tank Thursday, we talk about growth. What does growth look like from here on? What are some of the things in your short term and long term visions for your work?
So everything, and it's kind of a challenging thing because there's a lot of stuff going on right now with the rink and the brand. So right now it's I try to look at it as we go down this road, everything is going to kind of form a circle together to serve the greater good. I think that adding the brands and building that is going to draw more attention to the rinks. People are going to want to come into the rink, buy the product, look at the product. We're going to have some of the talent in the rink sponsored by the product. So we're building kind of like that ecosystem. That's the best way I can describe it, is that what I'm building and I'm looking at as growth is an ecosystem of things. So the rink, we're going to be able to draw more guests in because of the brands, because of the shop. And then in vice versa, the brands, and they're also going to help grow that. We are adding more adult nights. We are adding more events to bring in our kids, groups. Just overall, I think the growth that we're going to have over these next few months going into next year, I think is going to be amazing. We are just spending so much time right now putting this rink as the premier attraction. Like I talked to you when we were here, like we already know what we have here, but this next growth, I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a wild ride, I think, these next few months with everything that's going on. And I think what we've been able to build with the rink and the shop and having the brands, it's a very unique setting. A lot of places, operators that have a rink, they just have the rink. They don't usually do the other stuff. I'm not saying everyone, a case for everyone, but this is a very unique situation that we have right here. And I think it's going to give us a lot of advantages. I think it's really going to set this rink and this facility and our brands apart from everyone else. It's going to be an interesting ride these next months, but I see this rink and I see the rink. I see Skateland again continuing to grow as the premier skating attraction in Indiana. And I would dare even say, as we continue to grow, one of the premier skating attractions in the business in general. And what I see with our brands, as our brands continue to grow, I see our brands kind of becoming leaders in the industry. And again, tying it into more of what we do with the community. We have a lot of things that we want to do with our brands that maybe other companies don't fully do or partly do. And we're really trying to see a bigger vision for what we have.
That's great. That's great. When you, for yourself, obviously, we're talking in a time when you've acquired a new business, right? You started the GM and operating partner. There's a lot of growth. How do you keep yourself motivated to grow personally with all of this? What are some things you do for your own personal motivation?
So what I tell myself, I actually had this conversation with someone the other day. So what I always tell myself is, I guess, that I'm never settled. I never get complacent. I never stop moving. I always, like, sometimes people will reach certain, I guess you want to say, certain levels, certain things, and they just get kind of satisfied with that. They say, well, I'm now comfortable. And I think sometimes when we get comfortable, we lose sight. We stop getting hungry. And my thing is, my motivation is I'm always hungry. I'm always ready. I look at something that we do and I say, okay, great. What's next? Now what's next? For example, I kind of track back. I was a competitive figure skater. Okay, what's goal? National champion. Okay, you win that. Okay, well, what's next? Okay, then I went into the jam skating. Okay, well, what's next? I want to be a professional jam skater and I want to do shows. Okay, cool. Did that. Now what's next? Oh, I want to make skates. Oh, wow. Okay, that's cool. Okay, did that. Now what's next? I want to have a rink. Okay, cool. Now I did that. What's next? There's always, that's how I stay motivated, is I never stop seeing what's next. I never stop. I never stop. I guess that's the general thing, is like I'm never satisfied with, I'm happy, I'm thankful for things, but I never allow myself to slack. I never allow myself to go, well, you know what? I'm just kind of happy and settled now in my life. This is as good as it's going to be. I'm always looking for, okay, I did this. We've done this. We still got work to do, but what is next? What's the next thing? And I think in life and as leaders, we should always be looking for what's next. You should always be looking for what's next. And that's kind of how I keep myself. I'm just always telling myself each day, I'm like, okay, well, we did this. Okay, cool. Okay. Now what's the next horizon? What's the next challenge? What's the next plateau?
Oh my gosh, what is your next challenge? Do you have enough challenges right now?
Well, so I don't, you know what? That's actually a good question, because and I really, to be honest with you right now, because of everything that's kind of happened so fast, I have ideas in my head.
Mhm.
And I might be contradicting what I just said, but right now, because I'm still trying to absorb everything, my mind is like, okay, let me get my feet under me with
For
all
this.
of this now. But in my mind, like, for example, I can tell you one thing for sure, is my mind now is like, okay, I want to have, like, now I'm like, I want to have a second rink. Now I want to have another. Like, that's kind of where my mind starts to go, is like, okay, well, I still have so much to learn with this, but the ambition in me is like, okay, well, what's number two? How do I, what, where do we,
Right. If it
you know,
takes me 2 to 3 years to get that second rink, I'll already be ready to move
exactly.
on to the
That's
next rink. Yeah.
that's kind of where my mind, I guess if you were to say to me what's next, is that would be my next outlook of things. And then it's also, I guess you can also tie into that too, is as we absorb these brands, and as we're doing, is like, okay, well, what's next for us to absorb? What can we do with this? Obviously, what we're looking at, what's next with the brand, is new product. What new product over the next couple of years are we going to introduce? Kind of thinking about. So if you were to ask me, Mike, what's my next thing? It's kind of those things. It's kind of a little mix of stuff. I don't really have right now like I'm still processing all the stuff, so I don't really have like a direct target in sight. But I have my little notes of like, okay, this is where I see going.
The ideas that are out there.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an unfair question. You said you just acquired that other business this like
Yeah.
yesterday, like this week. So we'll give you
Well,
a
no,
couple
but I
of
mean, but it's
days.
but it's the same thing. So like we just acquired. So for example, so we just acquired it, okay? But I'm already sitting here, and I'm already having these conversations of like, okay, I know our timeline of this, and that, but what are we going to do here? What's this? What about this? Wait a minute, I think we should do this. Like, so you're already, like I said, it's like, now that you got it, now it's like you're still off to the races. You're still doing, and that's how I work. Like, I never just I sometimes, and maybe I should, I don't know, but I never just sit back, and I never do this. Like, I never sit back and go, well, put the white picket fence up and let's just have, I never do. I'm always looking at the next horizon.
Thing. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today, James. It was a pleasure talking to you again. Where can people find you to learn more about you and your businesses?
Sure. So there's there's a lot of different places people can find us. For the rink, obviously, you can go to skatelandindy.com. You can check us out on there. You can also visit our anabolics site at anabolics, ANABOLIX, skate.com. We have a new East Coast roller sports site that's going to be coming up over the next couple months. You can also go on my social media. You can find me on Instagram at James Jamskate, spelled out, and then James Wilson on Facebook. And then you can also check out Anabolic Skate on Facebook. And then we have Adam Skates as well. We're still merging all of that stuff in. That's kind of later, but that's our main ones for right now that we have.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you once more to our 2024 digital sponsors for Think Tank Thursday. If you have a Think Tank idea, Want to be a guest or want to sponsor, please contact us at Candy, CANDI, at trainertainment.net. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Trainertainment's Think Tank Thursday. Remember, the journey to success is all about growth. And here at Trainertainment, we are committed to helping you and your company thrive. Visit trainertainment.net to learn more about how we can support your growth journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for extraordinary.